as well. So it definitely is associated with this tithe. It could be both kind of gears, which is what we see in many instances. But it's kind of like this thinking. If you had a room and this room had 20 ger toshas in it, okay, and one convert, they would translate the ger that would mean all of these people in this room, all 21 of them, but they would translate it all as proselyte. Why? Because there was one ger tzedek in the room. That's the same principle as if there was 20 women in one room and one man, and everything that was written about those people in that room would be in the male tense in the Hebrew. Why? Because there was one male in the room. So everything would revert to the male tense, even though there would be 20 women in the room, and it would be talking about all the people in the room. It would be written in the male tense because there was one male in there. That is probably the same idea that the translators would put into this when we keep saying, like, why do they keep saying it's proselyte? And so when you see that it's both, it will be it would be translated as a proselyte. When it's obvious that it's not both, then you'll see stranger, Gentile, or non-Jew, or something else like that. If it's a nakre, if it's using that word and not the word ger, you'll see foreigner or something like that. So this is just how the translations work. So kind of give you an idea when you keep running across this word proselyte, thinking that it's exclusively uh, a ger tzedek. It's not. It can be both. And so we see all of that.
Hey, Russell, sorry.
Sure,
Can I make an interjection here?
sure.
The word "ger" we used it a couple times in this Aliyah, and sorry I joined late, but it's calling Yisrael as Gerim. In other words, then you shall cut out uh, and say, then you shall call out and say before Hashem your God, an Aramaean would have destroyed my father and the descendant to Egypt and sojourned there, few in number. And there he
Mhm.
became a nation, great, strong, and numerous. The word sojourn there, which I believe that sojourn is the best English translation of the word
Mhm.
ger,
Mhm.
but it says sojourn there. They can't say proselyte and they cannot say convert there because even though the root word there is vayagar, it's ger,
Mhm.
they can't say convert. What do you mean they were converts? Converts to what? It's like they are it. So sojourner really is the best. I'm not saying it's perfect. The perfect would be in Lashon HaKodesh, which would be Hebrew. But if we have to translate, in my opinion, sojourn is the right thing to say here. And so that's the broader meaning. And this is really, really important here. And so, yeah, like, you were saying later on, it's talking about sojourners and the like, the Levite to the convert. The interesting thing about Levites are sojourners. They don't really have a permanent residence in the land, right?
Yep, they sojourn in the land.
Yeah, so they sojourn in the land of Yisrael. And so there are these different levels of sojourners. And yeah, and I'm not trying to sound negative, but the truth is it is a perversion when people call gerim, converts. It's not the proper idea. It's not the proper Indian, the proper concept. It is a more of a verb than a noun. It is an action. It's a growth. And when we get into that concept, that mentality, then we can start expanding our consciousness of we should be growing. We should be reaching out to people through the Sheva Mitzvot, through just teaching about Hashem and having people grow into the Torah. Because if not, then people think, oh, he's trying to convert me, or you need to convert to Judaism, or you need to do all these 613 mitzvot, and that's the only way to receive a godly soul and to know God and yada yada. Um, so it's very important we learn that this mentality concept of sojourner is a process going from point A to point B.
James, were you in here to hear my hypotheses on using translating ger to proselyte with the Hebrew language?
Unfortunately, I think I was halfway into it. My alarm for some reason didn't go off for Torah study, so I was a few minutes late.
My
But
alarm almost didn't take.
yeah,
It went off, but it was like,
uh, I, I I was up. I've been up this morning. I just I was talking with the kids and everything, and I just missed my time. I usually rely on my alarm for the class.
yeah. My idea here is that, if there was 20 ger toshav in a room, and there was one ger tzedek, one convert in the room, then they would translate it all as a proselyte, kind of like the same way as if there was 20 women in a room and there was one male in the room. The Hebrew would all be in the male tense. And so when we see proselytes, my theory anyway is, I think it was translated in that context. When you see proselyte, it can mean either or. It can mean both, or it's a proselyte, but it can mean both as well, because uh, we understand that the Ger Toshav would benefit from these tithing the same as a proselyte would. Is that not correct?
I would somewhat agree with that. Matter of fact, I would go a little further and say something that sounds revolutionary, but in actuality it is the what I believe the most pure sense, which is that Ger Tzedek and Ger Toshav are really later made up terms. They do have a wisdom to them. They are kosher, but they are a later things, concepts in the Torah. The real concept is ger, is sojourner. The reason why they have ger tzedek and ger toshav is just for adjudication, just so that we as human beings can grasp spiritual concepts so they can be consolidated into something that we can adjudicate, that we can judge on and say, this person is allowed in the land, this person is not allowed in the land, this person can marry a Yisrael, this person cannot marry a Yisrael. And the concept of ger is such a high spiritual, pure thing that our human minds can't fully grasp the ramifications of just ger. And I think Rabbi Chlorphine and Rabbi Katz, they had these concepts, and they did understand that. But being in the Jewish community, you can't establish that halakhically for adjudication purposes, basically. And I think that was, one of the uh, things that got them into, I don't know what to call a bind or whatever, but even though it is a real thing, um, it's hard to bring into reality. And the reality is, there are these other concepts, not I should say other concepts, but these other condensations of the Ger wisdom, which is Ger Toshav and Ger Tzedek. Um, yeah, so I kind of agree with you. I do agree with you, I guess I should say. But there's also that higher consciousness of Ger, but it takes such a high wisdom that the Amim, the peoples, can't adjudicate. Just think about it this way. It's like marrying off your children. You want to make sure that such and such person has a certain madrega, a certain level that you can agree upon and be like, okay, this man is fit for my daughter. This woman is fit for my son. And that's why a lot of Gerim laws are in Kedushin, in the laws of a holiness of marriage. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, I don't think it's too radical of a move to think that the later sages redacted this into breaking down these ger qualities within the populace of the nation. And,
Right.
and so they had to identify it. So I don't think that's just a real radical idea. Uh,
Correct.
and I think it is because uh, it's kind of like with Ruth, and that we've been studying Ruth here lately.
Oh, 100%. Ruth is an excellent example.
Yeah, during the time of Ruth, the Sanhedrin was not taking converts. They weren't
Yeah.
taking them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Garrett Toshav and Garrett Sedek both break down in the story of Ruth.
right. And that's where so during this time, Ruth went through the actions of doing a convert or becoming a convert. So when the time that the Sanhedrin did accept them, she would be in. And this is the same thing that was going on when King David and King Solomon were in power, and they were and they didn't want insincere converts coming in just because Israel was so powerful that they didn't accept converts. But
100%.
so then, but the person still went through the motions of it in acceptance or in preparation for when their acceptance would be received by the Sanhedrin. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah.
But that's today as well.
Yes, 100%. We're going through the motions in the twilight of the morning of Mashiach, the Messianic era. Excellent.
And so but here's the kicker, and I think this is the universal argument between Ger Toshav and Ger Tzedek, is that we as Ger Toshav are going through the motions until we're accepted into the land.
100%. 100%. And you know where that is? Kedushin 62b, again, in the laws of marriage. If it's morning time and the base din is not out, if it's like nighttime, if the sun hasn't risen yet, the base din does not meet. Now, you have to go before a base din in order to be accepted by the community, by Yisrael. I mean, and it just makes sense, right? You can't barge into a community and be like, "Hey, you got to treat me this way," or yada yada.
Uh-huh.
It takes arbitration. So base din doesn't meet at night. You have to wait until morning. What the Talmud says, though, and what Rabbi Steinschultz says in his Talmudic commentary, and he says this is halacha, actually, what I'm getting ready to say. And it's not me saying it; it's what's in the commentary and from the Talmud here. The ger that is coming before the base din, or wants to come before base din, he can do his utmost. He can do mila and mikvah. He can do circumcision and immersion on his own. What base din is for is Kabbalah, that to make sure that potential ger, or that it's potential from the perspective of the base din. From the perspective of the ger, he already is a ger.
Mhm.
Okay. He the onus of the Beis Din is just for Kabbalah, just to make sure that that person accepts the mitzvahs, accepts the Torah. That is the person. That is the point of Beis Din. So there are three things. Well, actually, there's four things that go on with Gerus. Acceptance of the Gerus. It is making sure that he does Mila and Mikvah, make sure that he knows and has Kabbalah of Torah, and four, he brings his offering.
Mhm.
And that's actually another proof because there's no temple to bring the offering. Does that mean that Gerim are not accepted today? No, Gerim are accepted. Ger Tzedek is accepted today. So the argument that, oh, you have to have a Beis Din in order to do these things is false. Because if that were true, then there would be no Gerim today because they can't bring their offering that is needed.
So I guess this is going to beg the question here from what you're saying is that
Yeah.
if I um accepted it, I during the night, during the evening, I made my mind up to become a ger. Okay. And so during the night, I died. So then, or that would that person who was in that situation, would they have died as a ger, or would they
Yes.
have died as something else? Because they
No,
already
yes.
made the commitment to do so when they were going to in the morning when the Sanhedrin
Yes.
was meeting.
And yes, the answer is yes. And how do we know this? Because the Talmud says a ger shanit gayer. This is from, I believe, Yevamos 48. Why does it say, the question is, why does it say ger shanit gayer and not goy shanit gayer? Why does it say a ger that sojourns and not a goy that sojourns? And the answer that, for instance, the Rebbe gives, and I believe it was in a letter. It wasn't in one of his sichas, but I believe it's in one of his letters that says, I hope you don't lose connection with me. I'm walking too far. He says because he has always been a ger. He has always been a sojourner. There's no such thing as conversion. And I've shared this video multiple times with you guys, so I can't reference it, of course, in audio. But there is no such thing as a convert. The ger is just accepted by the Beis Din as a ger. It's his acceptance by the community. It's not a real conversion. The conversion or whatever has already happened within the soul or is the soul of this person. They have been born with a ger soul. Um, and there's no conversion. So when people say convert, it bugs me to high heaven when I hear the term convert within the context of Torah. It's not a Torah term. It's not a Judaism term. It is a Christian term, Islamic term, whatever. And I'm not saying that Judaism, I'm not knocking them. But the point is, it's not a Torah term, and it should not be used in regards to the ger. It's a bastardization of the term. It gives the wrong concept and mentality of what gerim are, and what happens is people become coerced and become false gerim because they believe that's the only way to receive a godly soul. That's the only way that they can receive a portion of the world to come is by going to a Beis Din and becoming Jewish. And so what you have is a bunch of people that just don't even know what Gerus is, even though that they could be that they are accepted as it. And I'm not saying all Ger Tzedek that go before Beis Din are like that. I'm not. I'm just saying that that's the plan that they lay out in present in the present haaretz, the commoner view of Jewish gerus. And if you talk to a lot of rabbis on the internet or just non-Jews on the internet about converting to Judaism, in quotes, that's their the explanation is, oh, you got to convert, you got to go before a beis din. No, the Torah does not say that. The Torah says ger shanit gayer, not goy shanit gayer. It's not a goy that then becomes a sojourner. It's a ger that sojourns. He has always been a sojourner.
Mm.
So
So with that idea, uh, of no, say no converts or not convert, or that convert is a foreign idea in a sense to Judaism. Is that why you think that's why there's no proselytizing in Judaism, because they're not making converts because the idea wasn't the same?
100%. See, this is the thing. You're not supposed to drag somebody to beis din. That's what they think when they say you're not supposed to make converts.
Hmm.
We're not supposed to make converts. That's the thing. You hear it all the time. What they're talking about is we're not supposed to drag people to beis din. We're not supposed to coerce people to go through beis din and go through gerus. We're not supposed to coerce people into forcing them, because that's called gere arayot, a gerim of the lions, which the small lions, which are the ones the young ones of Yisrael that are ignorant, but they are feisty and they're protective. And what they do is they try and force others to undergo beis din. You got to convert. You have to do this. Those are the young lions. And Mike Matledge just talked about this a few weeks ago about the young lions. But this is a thing. And what it does is it creates what's called kuthim. That's how the kuthim came about. They are commanded, but they don't do. That's the thing about kuthim, um, which I forget how you translate that. The kuthim. Oh, the Sumerians.
Mm. Okay.
They live in the land, they act like it, they're commanded, but they don't do. That's and so what's going on is on a spiritual level, you having quote converts end quote, but they're really kuthim. They're commanded, but they don't even know what they're doing. They're not doing. And so um I lost track of my frame of thought here, but oh, the young lions. So this is the concept of this is what's going on today. So you have all these rabbis, these internet rabbis who don't have anything better to do, or they're not good enough to have a real congregation. So they flirt with non-Jews, and they don't fully understand the Torah themselves, and they try and get them to convert, or they become Noahide. You either stay a Noahide or you convert. And they're not really teaching them Gerus at all, because in their minds, they think that to make somebody Gerim is to coerce them into going for a beis din and taking all 613 mitzvot and yada yada. And so they're like, so it's their mind, their understanding of conversion. The real thing is you are trying to make gerim, but you're doing it in the old way, the old understanding, which is the real way, which is the sojourn in Torah, to grow on an organic level within Torah. Does that mean dragging them to beis din? Does that mean forcing them to the level of Taryag mitzvot, 613 mitzvot? No. And the Rebbe even writes this. The Rebbe writes this in his famous Likutei Sichos, Parshas Yisro. I think it's volume 19 or volume 26 of where he talks about and he inaugurates in officially the B'nai Noach campaign that he does, where he's teaching the Sheva mitzvahs. This is his like thesis. This is where he says that all of Yisrael has to be or legoyim, a light to the nations, by teaching the seven mitzvahs. And he says specifically, he's saying, don't drag them to Beis Din. I don't have to force them in Beis Din, but I am obligated. A Yisrael is obligated to be teaching the Sheva mitzvahs, B'nai Noach, the seven laws that were given to the children of Noach, to all of humanity, and to try and to convince them through peace to accept the seven because the Torah says so. And so, in other words, this is the Kabbalah. This is Kabbalah of the Torah in the seven. He's not saying that it's based in, but it's at the madrega of it, and he's preparing Gerim. The Rebbe is literally making Gerim by telling by teaching non-Jews, by telling his Hasidim that his congregation, Chabad, all of Chabad, to spread the Sheva Mitzvot, to make Gerim, basically Ger Toshav. In essence, that's what the seven, when you accept the seven because the Torah says so, that is like Ger Toshav. So the Rebbe is literally telling Chabad to make Gerim. And that's why I'm so big into Chabad, is because I see through all this, and I connect with the Rebbe on what he's doing and what he's saying. But people don't understand what he's saying because they don't actually read what he says, and they don't read the context of the Torah that he's talking about. So, and this is, I love you guys getting into the Torah like we all are, and actually getting to this stuff. Like I mean, this is amazing what we're doing.
Well, you have no idea how many times that a rabbi they've asked me, are you going to convert? Are you converting? Are you
Yeah.
going to convert? And I think a lot of it, because in all fairness, is because we're an enigma to them. It's
Yeah,
like,
they mean well. When they say that, they mean well, but that's because they care about us so much. They want a kosher way to interact with us, and the only way they know is through Taryag Mitzvot, is to be one of them in complete unity as a Ger Tzedek.
right.
And they mean well, but
Mhm.
they don't realize that you and I and everybody here basically knows that the real mission to be Or Lagoyim, to be a light to the nations, is to spread the Torah at the least through the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, and to establish Gerim. That's the whole purpose of going out into the exile, is exactly what we are doing.
Yeah. And yeah, it is, in all fairness, they are not trained. They don't understand the sugya, the way we've studied it and looked at it,
100%.
and so, and like you said, they're just trying to figure out how to interact with us, how to deal with it. How do you deal
Yeah.
with this non-Jewish person who
I
is so connected with Torah, that it's like, bless his heart, we've got our conservative rabbi here just confused as all get
Yeah.
out. It's like, you're
100%. And I'm
you're
not
doing
trying
all the
to.
stuff.
Yes, and I'm not trying to bash. I hope people don't think I'm bashing. I'm trying to establish what's really going on. They they have internal fights. Yisrael has internal fights and issues with this as well, emotionally, psychologically, and the fact that non-Jews have attacked them for thousands of years.
Hmm.
It's probably at least even ingrained in their DNA a bit to be skeptical and have anxiety towards the outsiders, with non-Jews. So just studying the Ger Sugya is probably very hard for them, and they don't probably emotionally want to care about it because they just don't want to die from the thousands of years of negativity and murder or whatever that non-Jews have inflicted on them. And this is our job, which we have to absorb that negativity as non-Jews in the Torah, studying Torah, we have to absorb that negativity, process that negativity into actual Torah thought. So we have to take that energy, learn the Torah, talk it in the language of Torah so that we can communicate and oscillate between the Jewish world and the non-Jewish world, between the Ger and the Yisrael. That is, or excuse me, as Gerim, that's what we do. Just like Naaman went back to his peoples or whatever, we kind of similar. I wouldn't really call people, my peoples, but it's the same. It's the similar concept. And so as non-Jews, we can't get negative about things. We have to see things the way they are, and we have to we have to